To moving on now, almost all UK universities are to face 18 days of strikes across February and March. The University and College Union has announced teachers, librarians and other staff are asking for a pay rise above the 4 to 5% offered by the Universities and Colleges Employers Association. Well, it follows the largest strike in history by higher education staff, which affected approximately 2.5 million students in November. Well, a growing number of students are joining the student group Claim to seek compensation over disruption to their education. And some solicitors are arguing that universities breached contracts by failing to provide in-person tuition and access to facilities that students have already paid for. Well, I spoke to the lawyer Ryan Dunleavy about the issue and why he's helping.
I think they feel they need representation because, I mean, let's face it, they're a fairly vulnerable group in society. They're young. For most of them, they will have got into an awful lot of debt to pay for university. It'll be the first debt that they'll have. They'll have very little in the way of assets. They'll probably have no income beyond what they can borrow or what people can help them with, say their parents. So I think they feel that they need support. And many of them have gone to their universities and just not got the result that they wanted by doing that. So they've ended up coming to us. It's very much student-led. They've come forward and approached us, and it's gathered momentum. So now we've got, I think, looking at today's statistics, I think we've got about 65,000 students who've signed up to these cases.
Yeah. Well, just explain a little bit more for people that are unaware, because the students have kind of unionised in and of themselves, haven't they?
Yes, that's an interesting way of looking at it, actually. I mean, I don't think, I've never described it as that. I've never had them describe it as that. But essentially, we are getting groups of students coming to us from different universities. So they're obviously talking among themselves. We don't know exactly how they're doing that. But we'll suddenly find in one day we'll get, say, 1,000 students sign up from Leeds University or something. We'll think, oh, how did that happen? So there's obviously conversations going on among the students that we're not privy to. And I think that's all very healthy, that they're talking to each other. They're pretty disgruntled about the situation, not just with the impact of the strikes on them, but what happened over the whole lockdown period, particularly in the academic year 2020 to 2021. And they feel shortchanged, which in fact they are. So, they were promised one thing, they were delivered another, but the universities kept the full fees and actually made bumper profits in these years.
Yeah. Of course, the teachers and the professors and the lecturers, librarians, etc., they will feel shortchanged as well. That's why they're striking. So what they would say to the students is, look, I understand your frustration, but we're getting screwed over just as much by the government, so we need a bit of solidarity on this together for a better pay deal so we can give you the best education for your money. A lot of students might go, yeah, that's fine, fair enough, and align themselves with the teachers who are striking. But what are some of the students saying that don't feel the same?
I haven't heard any, actually, so far, James, saying we feel very critical of the actual striking staff. They're critical of the universities because the universities, they should be paying their staff properly, basically. And instead, they're not paying their staff properly. The staff are having to go on strike. And then the universities are continuing to it's having no dent in their income.
Yeah.
The universities, don't forget, they took furlough money in the hard times as well. So they made bumper profits. They've increased their number of students that they've signed up. If you're not constrained by a lecture theatre, it's much easier to teach people on Zoom and have more people signed up to it, even though it's a subpar service. So they've made bumper profits. They've got this huge surplus, and they're not paying their staff properly. I don't think the students, certainly not the ones I've talked to, have any problem with the lecturers or even going on strike. They just feel really upset that they paid for something and they're not getting it.
Yeah, which is absolutely fair enough. And in terms of their representation, because you're operating on a no-win, no-fee basis, aren't you? And in terms of taking on their claim, are you taking on en masse, or are you trying to represent individuals in some sort of capacity? Because obviously, we're talking about fees here, and if they feel like they're being shortchanged out of the money they don't really have in the first place, then obviously having to pay lawyers on top of that's going to be a bit tricky.
Well, of course, look, I get that. But so we're dealing with this as a group claim, as its name suggests, at studentgroupclaim.co.uk. The costs will effectively be aggregated. But what we're doing for every individual student when they sign up to us, and there's a very detailed explanation of how this works, and we're always happy to explain it in more detail, is we're taking 35% of the compensation. Now, that might seem like a lot, but say you're claiming for £5,000 as a student and you want to take a matter like this to the court. It costs a fortune in terms of expenses to run these things. It's actually a relatively low amount, 35% of, say, £5,000, if you were to pay for a legal expert to give evidence on quantum, if you were to pay all the court fees, if you were going to be running litigation. And we've got, leading King's Counsel from the top barristers' chambers, who's leading a whole team of barristers doing this. We've got many solicitors doing it. I think it's actually very good value for money, and I think it's the students' best shot at getting what we think will be fair compensation.
There you go, Ryan from Harcus Parker there on why he's helping students claim compensation for the uni strikes that are coming up in February.